Welcome to Straight Outta Jersey. Today's podcast is brought to you by Ace Sunglasses. Go to acesunglasses.com.au to purchase some of the best shades around. Use promo code MRG30 and receive 30% off selected brands. Powered by the Zapata brand studio. Straight Outta Jersey with Jersey Jay-Z and the Freak of New York, Gregg Valentino.
What's up, guys? We are live Wednesday, not Thursday, a different day today because we have a special guest coming on. I'm Joe Zapata, and I got my brother from another mother, my boy Gregg Valentino. What's up, Gregory?
Not much. I'm excited to see my boy PJ.
Yes,
I haven't talked to him since the other show.
Since he was 18, right? I understand. 18.
Yeah, it was like he was somewhere around there. He was young when I first met him. You know, he was a young, good-looking kid. He had some great potential, and you know.
Well, we're gonna get into it, but first, I'm gonna do a little bit of house cleaning, Greg. Quick couple minutes. First, I want to give a shout out to the Rican Rhino. There he is, Rican Rhino. That's his Instagram. He likes us, subscribes. He's a fan. He's a big supporter, so he wanted to give us a shout out. I'm going to give him a shout out. Thank you so much for supporting us.
Thank you,
Ryan. I also want to thank John Mancini. He actually helped me and PJ connect because we had been missing each other. So kind of got that all together. Ace Sunglasses, thank you very much. Go to acesunglasses.com/au and get your best glasses around. And then also my brother Dennis and George, I want to thank them. George keeps the Zapata brand machine going in the background that people don't know about because we're going to have a big 2025, Greg. We got a lot of big things happening. You know that.
Yes, I do. George keeps his big brother in line.
Yes. So, Greg, I want to introduce our next guest.
Yes.
Obviously, he's a bodybuilder. Blackstone Labs. He was the owner of Blackstone Labs. Obviously, everyone knows he went to prison. So we're going to talk about that. But now he's out and he's back and he's going to be bigger than before. I know he's going to have. We support him and we love him.
Yes, we do. He's a great guy. I know him a long time.
I see a lot of stuff about him. You know him since he was 18 years old. We're going to bring him on right now. PJ Braun. What's up, PJ? Hey, what's going on?
There he is.
Yeah,
I just want to congratulate PJ because a lot of you guys know because you follow him, but he just got married and his wife was there for him and it's been an awesome girl. And I'm happy for PJ because that's the best, man. Starting a family and shit like that's better than all this bodybuilding shit, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
God bless.
I want to talk to you quickly, PJ, about Marissa. Obviously you went to prison.
Yep.
And I have a lot of friends and family members in prison. And when you go to wait, not only do you do the time, but your family and your loved ones do the time also.
That's true.
And that's true, right, Greg?
Oh, yeah.
And Marissa seems to be that strong rock, because most girls leave. They don't hang around. How was Marissa with you? Is she as strong? I don't know her, but strong and supportive?
She's honestly the strongest person I've ever met. I think I'm real strong, but I almost ruined this whole entire relationship because when in the very beginning, I told her from the start, I said, listen, I'm in a big federal lawsuit. I'm going to win. I'm confident that I'm going to win, but it's going to be a long road. And she was like, okay. And then I had to sit her down and be like, listen, things have changed quite a bit, a few years into it. She was there when I got indicted. I started dating her after the FDA raid. So I didn't really know what was going to happen, but I knew they had BS on me.
Right.
At least by what the common person would think before you get into everything with the government. Right. So once they made the indictments and they said what they were doing, I still felt very confident. But then they started coming and pulling people apart and trying to get people to say things that were true. And then finally, once guys started going and working out their deals, I was like, listen, you should just get out of here because now I'm probably going to go to jail. You're a young girl. You're beautiful. What are you going to do? Wait for me if I have to go to jail for 5 years? And I really was sabotaging the relationship and she wouldn't leave. It was a dark time for us. I regret the way that I handled that because I just didn't know how to handle all the stress of thinking I'm probably going to go to jail, and I didn't want on my conscience. I didn't want her waiting around for me. She's just such a good girl. You know, she's such a catch.
Wow.
And she was like, she finally one day was like, listen, stop trying to ruin it. I don't care if you tell me that you have AIDS and you're going to die in 6 months. I'm staying with you until the day that you die. I don't care if you have cancer. I don't care. I'm not leaving your side. And I was like, man, she really does, you know, mean that. So when I, you know, we got engaged and she really wanted to have children. And I was like, look, I don't want to have a baby before I go to prison. You know,
Right.
You know, if you want to wait for me, then I promise as soon as I get out, I will. So I thought about that, you know, the whole time I was gone. And when I was gone, you know, 22 months is a long time. I saw guys, marriages and stuff end in fast amount of time when I was in there. And it was sad seeing those guys because I'm on the phone, you know, those phone calls are everything when you're in there.
Right.
I love you. And she's so strong. She's like, I miss you. And then I see these guys coming up heartbroken, you know. I just found out my wife's seen another guy and this and that, and they're just trapped in there. So going through all that with her, like how she was, like I already felt like I loved her so much. But the way that I love her now, like sometimes I just like, I'm driving in the car and I just start smiling like, man, I'm so lucky.
You know, are lucky.
Our relationship's great.
It's hard to meet girls like that, especially like if you're in this industry. The minute you decide like this industry is not for me, or you get in any trouble, it's bye. You know what I'm saying? Look what I mean. Paul DeMeo, I knew him when he was a kid. He was a great guy. He had a high school girlfriend that he dated from high school. As soon as he became a pro, he started doing, you know, like video, you know, like cover shots with a specific girl. I don't want to say her name. You know, she's a Jersey girl too, piece of shit. But she fucked his head up so bad. He wound up going to jail because of her. You know, she got him hooked on drugs, everything. And as soon as he went to jail, she boogied. It's just bad. But I'm just saying, you know, you got a good girl, man, and I'm glad for you. You're a good man, and you know, I want to see nothing but only good stuff's gonna happen for you now. You know, there's a few bumps in the road always, you know, but that shit's all gonna go, you know, be in the rearview mirror faster than you can imagine. You know, what I mean?
PJ, you were the first person I think convicted of this crime, right?
First ever, yeah.
That's crazy. Now, for those people that don't know, maybe you can tell the story because some people here that in the chat that don't know your story on what happened. Maybe you want to explain it.
Sure. So, what the government put out and the way they word it and the way they have to make it as sexy as possible. You know what I mean? You read the things that they say about people, and this is why I don't believe anything that I see about, you know, Trump, anybody. I don't believe any of the shit. They have their cases. Greg, you know, as big and they use these terms like landmark victory for the government. All that we did was we sold a product called Super DMZ 2.0. In the product was 2 ingredients: dimethazine, which a lot of companies were selling, and methylstenbolone, which a lot of other companies were also selling. To my knowledge, we're the only ones that put them together in the same product. And it was a really cool, strong pro-hormone. We put it out right after they banned Superdrol, which was an awesome pro-hormone. You know, that's what their original Haladrol in the box, that's what Superdrol was.
Yep.
So we felt that from a marketing standpoint, we could say, hey, this is very similar to Superdrol. And it was great. Their position was when they put out the Designer Hormone Control Act, which was right after they banned Superdrol and some other hormones, they made a addition to this list, and there was about 25 different ingredients on the list that they said were now banned in 2014. But the ingredients in that product were not on the list. So we were actually selling like 5 other products that were on the list, and we got letters from the government, hey, you can't sell these products anymore. We said, sure, no problem. We actually contacted the attorney that we were using back then, who was not an FDA attorney, should have absolutely got an FDA attorney. And he was like, listen, they didn't ban it. It's not illegal. Keep on selling it. So we wound up selling it until 2 years later when we started doing business with my current partner, although I'm not allowed to be a part of the business, Jared Wheat, who was manufacturing our products at this point at High Tech Pharmaceuticals. He gave it to us straight. He was like, listen, I've been dealing with the government for years, as you know. I've already done my time, and you got to go as squeaky clean with this stuff as possible. Let's get rid of the Super DMZ so there's no more headaches.
Right.
We said, no problem. So we weren't even selling it anymore when they raided my facility. So they raided our facility. We had no idea why. It took a few more years later because they went through all the products that we took and we didn't have anything that was illegal. When they unsealed the documents for the indictment, they said that you guys were selling an illegal product that was banned past the ban. We were like, what product? They're like Super DMZ 2.0. We're like, no, it's actually still not banned in 2019. So not guilty. We went to fight it. During the fight, they started realizing, we went to mediation. They were realizing they didn't have a good case. They screwed up because the guys that are working in the FDA positions, they actually don't know shit about supplements. They don't.
Right. They don't.
Yeah, that's a fact.
It's crazy. They don't know anything at all. They were actually misquoting the names of other things. They have no idea, right? So what they ended up saying was, and this, they can get you for whatever they want.
That's true.
They said they changed their position to, even though the ingredients were not on the banned list, they were similar to ingredients on the banned list. And we knew, because we stopped selling those other products, that we were supposed to stop selling it, but we didn't care because we wanted to make money. That was the conspiracy that they had on us. So our attorney said, listen, they would have to prove that you guys really did know that it should have been on the list, which is impossible. So what they eventually did was divide the guys up and get some of the guys to say, yes, they knew that they weren't supposed to be selling it. Oh, will you testify that and say that? Yes, boom, boom. And that's when it all fell apart after that.
Wow. That's so fucked up. That is like, it's like, they look for, people don't realize that, but when these guys have it out for you, look at, I don't mean to sidetrack for a second, but look at the Daniel Penny case, right? Yep. They just had one of his Marine instructors. They found some fucking Momo, right? That, was a Marine instructor that said, well, I think he held the chokehold too long. See?
Yep.
And it's one guy. Meanwhile, 10 other instructors are like, no, he did exactly the way he's supposed to do it. So what they do is they look for shit on you, and they're looking for, they'll find a hair on the egg. They'll use one of your friends or somebody that's involved, and they'll hold shit over their head, and they'll get somebody to flip the script and say shit. It's just, it's unbelievable, Now,
is there restrictions that you can't deal with supplements?
Yeah, I'm the only one, because I didn't cooperate. I'm the only one, like other people are like, why aren't you doing something in a different supplement space?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
So what my paperwork on my probation says, my probation officer, he's actually a really nice guy. He's like, I feel bad. I don't know what to do about this. My supervisor spoke to the prosecutor called the supervisor to make sure that I don't do anything in this space. It says anything, there's a related concern clause. And it says anything related to Blackstone Labs is an issue. So that means I can't work out of GNC if I wanted to. I can't do anything with any sort of supplements whatsoever. And if I wanted to do something in like the HRT peptides, that's related to it. I asked if I could get back into coaching again. And he said, man, it'd be really difficult because first of all, you're not allowed to own or operate any business. So you would have to get a job as a W-2 employee working for a gym or something. And then we'd have to go and talk to them and make sure that they understand that you can't talk about supplements with any, you'd think that I was like, murdering people.
Yeah. Pablo Escobar.
Not to get off subject, but if you get a chance and watch the Martha Stewart documentary on Netflix, right?
Yes, I was going to watch that.
They went after this poor lady so hard. Over $45,000, which to us might be a lot of money. She's a billionaire. And they thought that she was involved with insider trading, right, for $45,000, but they actually couldn't get her. They actually couldn't convict her of insider trading, so they changed it. This guy wanted to get her so bad, she actually went to prison for lying to a federal official. Because she said, I don't remember why I dumped the stocks.
Do you know that my childhood friend, Charlie Gasparin, who works for Fox News, he's the one who actually broke the story about her inside. He's the one they used his story to actually go after her. So she hates his guts. You know what I'm saying? He didn't do it to bring her down. He was doing a story on her.
Yeah.
And she made this money on some trading stuff, you know, and, you know, he's on Fox News. And, you know, they used his stuff to get to her. And he tried
That's how
to
they do it.
Yeah, it's bad. But when they want you, but you know what, PJ, all you have to do is let the clock run out. Don't worry about it. Don't sweat it. All that shit's going to fall off. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And then you're going to be able to do what you need to do to survive and create your, you know, your empire again. Don't worry, but don't stress it. Don't give them any fucking reason. I wouldn't, if somebody asked you for a multivitamin, I wouldn't recommend, I wouldn't do anything because, you know, you never know who's trying to, I don't trust fucking, this industry too is full of rats. I don't trust anybody that has like some sort of vendetta or whatever that would try to trick you into, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about how you were before you went to prison, but I was very trusting.
Me too.
In my circle. And now going through this, it really messes your head up where now it's like, I don't trust anybody. I have to learn to trust people again because you have to have trust in relationships. But I'm always like, oh, should I even be saying anything to this person? Could this be used against me?
Yeah. PJ, in prison, you find out really quickly who your true friends are, correct?
Oh, yeah.
Once you get arrested, you find that shit out.
Because people will
they scatter like fucking.
They scatter.
They scatter like ants. You know what I mean? All of a sudden, nobody answers their phone anymore. Or all of a sudden, you hear they're talking to cops and shit, and you're like, well, what's that all about? You know?
You know, when I was in there, I thought a lot about how it was going to be when I got home. You know, you have these thoughts like, will anybody give a shit about me anymore? You know, you just have all these thoughts by yourself. And I can tell you, when I got home, it was a lot different than I thought. Like there was no parade, you know, and I'm being obviously like joking around, but it was like, okay, a couple of people texted me.
Right.
You know, even my family wasn't really rushing to come see me, you know, but, you know, Marissa, she was, you know, seeing how happy that she was and being with her every day made up for everything. And then there's a few core people, and I've talked about them a bunch of times, that wrote me the whole time when I was in prison, emailed me, reached out to me consistently, reached out to her to make sure that she was okay. And those people, no matter what, they have a spot in my heart now that, you know, if they didn't before, I'll give them the shirt off my back if I have to.
Yeah, that's
I think you realign your thinking. Like when I was locked up, I was like, I realigned my thinking. The little things became the most important things, like family. And, you know, I remember saying, fuck bodybuilding. Look, you know, I had to, you know, of any other sport, I'd be fine. But you have to go in bodybuilding with your steroids, and I had to go fucking selling that shit. And I blame myself, though. I caused my own problems, bro. I was cocky. I was throwing the steroids on the fucking counter, and I had cops coming in getting shots. And so I was stupid. I deserved everything that happened to me, to be honest.
PJ, did you get any special treatment in prison because of who you were?
Yes and no at the same time. So
same with me.
In county jail, which is the worst. Thank God I was only in county jail for a couple weeks, right? County jail is the worst.
That's where I was, PJ. I was in the county jail.
I feel bad for you.
It was bad. I told him it was like Supermax, bro. If you picked your nose, they'd be like, "Oh, pick your nose, get in the room." And we, you know, you got locked down. You know, it was bad.
Terrible. So the first county jail that I was in, they threw me in a detox unit because I was on prescription Ativan, and which, you know, was like Xanax, and they were like, "Oh, you can't be on this anymore." And they're like, "You got to go into detox." So they threw me in there with like the fentanyl addicts and stuff. So, man, I spent the first 8 days locked down the whole time. They did not even let me out to shower. The only time I saw anybody was they'd open the little slot in the door and put the nasty slop food in. And there was one bed on the wall that this guy was passed out in the whole time. And I laid on this little like boat thing on the floor. So they threw me in there with this thing we call a turtle suit. It's like this green thing that Velcros around you. You're naked underneath. So when I finally got to see a doctor, and I was like, "Hey, I'm not supposed to be in here. I'm not on drugs, you know?" So the doctor was like, "Yeah, we're going to get you out of here." They gave me a shower. They shackled me up, and they brought me to another county jail. And this place was nicer, but man, the people we had no toilet paper in our cell. So I'm like knocking on the door, right? Knocking on the door, waiting. I'm trying to be as polite as possible. There's 6 guys, no toilet paper. Knocking on the door. Finally, this chick comes over. They're all big, fat, angry black women for some reason. I don't know why. That's like every prison. That's all it is. Come to the door. What? I'm like, I'm sorry. I just wanted to get some toilet paper. Wait. And then just leaves. So like an hour goes by and we got guys in there that have to go to the bathroom. So I'm like knocking on it again. Somebody else comes over. What? Can we please get some toilet paper? Why don't you have toilet paper? I'm like, I don't know. I've only been here for a day. There's no toilet paper. I've already asked. Can we please get some? Open the door. Let me get out. Tell me to go talk to this other guy. So I go to talk to him. He yells at me for interrupting him. I'm like, that was a whole week of that. So I will say though, when I got to the camp, I got lucky in the sense that, first of all, the lieutenant was he trolled me so hard, but he saw that I was a good sport because he knew who I was. So I got called to the lieutenant's office and he's like, PJ fucking Braun is at my prison camp. And he's got the computer up and he's showing the guys like my bodybuilding pictures. They're like, that's not you. And I'm like, it used to be me. And they're like, why don't you have all those muscles anymore? And I'm like, well, I'm retired. It's like, so then they start asking all these questions about gear and stuff. And it was like after that first day, those guys were really, really cool to me. And then it would kind of like trickle around like, hey, that's PJ Braun, and then guys would start coming to me talking about Blackstone Labs products. So I got lucky in that sense that I was able to get away with certain things because of that. Mm-hmm. And the problem with that is in the program that I was in, the non-bodybuilder fans saw that I was getting like a preferential treatment. So they went extra hard on me. Oh, Braun thinks he's special. You think you're special, huh, Braun? I'm like, no, ma'am, no, I don't. I'd have to go through this all day, the entire time. But I was so polite the whole time that eventually they would usually just give up. But it was, the combination, it was completely different. Like, you'd even get the guys that would be like, oh, leave Braun alone, man, he's cool. And then that would make them be extra mean to me just because of that.
Yeah. Was it segregated between blacks, whites?
Oh yeah. First of all, Alabama is if you're white, you do not want to end up in the Alabama prison. Let me tell you. I had to deal with so much of the white guys, the redneck white guys couldn't believe that I was the way that I was. Because they would right away they'd be like, man, we could have used you in the pen. We could have used you, with the white boys. And I'd be like, all right, well, we're here at the camp and there's none of that here. So, so they'd be like, yeah, you wouldn't be talking to those black guys if you were in the pen. I'm like, well, we're not there, So, and then a lot of the black guys, it would take a while. Like you'd see they'd act a certain way to me. But once they saw, because most of the guys who worked out, there was literally only like 3 guys that worked out that were white. The rest were all black. So once I became like more part of that crew of like, everywhere you go, bodybuilders always respect each other. That's just right. What it is, So once I started like seeing those guys every morning on the yard and this and that, having little conversations with them, other people are like, oh, he's talking to those guys. Oh, maybe he's not a racist redneck white guy. And it was good.
How many jail fights you get into?
Man, so I only had one incident at the camp, and I told this story before where it was over a haircut, and I just learned to do things a lot different after this. The way that you might do things in the free world, if you have a little bit of cash in the free world and you like to pay for convenience and you assume that you can do that in prison, in many ways, it's the opposite in prison, right? So I saw this guy that was a good barber and people were like, yeah, he's good, whatever. And honestly, it didn't even matter. I just wanted somebody to cut my hair. So I just told the guy straight up. I was like, listen, I don't want to have to like wait around or anything. I just want to get a haircut. You tell me when to come and I'll be there. Whenever it works out for you, I'm like, I'll give you $25 up front. Just cut my hair. Now a haircut in prison is like $2. It's like a bag of chips, a beef log, something like that. So I way overpaid him. Yeah. But I was like, I wanted him to know I meant business. It's like when you give somebody $100 to valet your car and leave it out front. You know? He received this as me trying to buy him.
Wow.
And I'm like, why does this guy is not cutting my hair? And days are going by and I'm being patient. So finally one of his friends, like, yeah, he said he didn't like the way that you try to buy him. Like, this white boy thinks he's going to buy me. And I was like, what? No. I was trying to like say, hey man, I appreciate whatever you can do for me. I want to show you that I'm serious. Here's extra money. So finally I went, this guy gave me the runaround all week and I hadn't seen Marissa in 9 months. I wanted to look good for her. I had a man bun. I looked crazy. I didn't cut my hair the whole time because I was locked down in quarantine for 23 hours a day. And so finally he's like, yeah, I'll cut you on Friday. So Friday comes, he's giving me the runaround. I'm getting really, really angry at this point. And he's like, I'll cut your hair after lunch. Lunch comes, I go to his cube and he's sleeping. And you never wake a man up when he's sleeping in prison. So 4 o'clock count comes. He wakes up. He's standing up for the count. He sees me and he's like, yeah, I'm going to get you after dinner. So he goes down, eats, and I go to wait at the barber shop. There's a little barber shop there. And he comes in and there's somebody sitting in the chair. And he's like, oh, shit, somebody's getting cut. I go, it's okay, man. I'll wait. He goes, nah, I'm going to go shoot some pool, man. I'll get you after I play. And I go, well, what do you want me to do, man? Please, she's going to be here tomorrow. He's like, I'll cut your hair at 7 o'clock. So 7 o'clock, I come. And now there's all these things going in my head because I still had a lot of aggression in me at this point. The barber shop is closed. So the first thing I'm thinking is, did he do this on purpose? He's doing this to me because I'm white. Like all these things that you go through in prison, they do a lot of this with the racial like segregation in there. They almost force it. And so I go into the pool hall. He's still playing pool. I'm like, hey man, the barbershop's closed. So we go over to the barbershop and he's like, oh shit, it is. You know what, man? I got clippers in my cube. I'll cut you in my cube. Go meet me at my cube. So I walk over to his cube. It's like 7:15, 7:30. Man, 8:30. One of his boys that knew that I was a nice guy was like, damn man, you're still didn't get a haircut yet? He's downstairs playing poker. So I'm like, at this point, man, I just wanted to take a shower and go to bed. Like I had my towel, I had my slides on. I'm ready to go shower and go to bed, right? So I go down there and I got to go down into the black TV room because the TV rooms, you got a Mexican TV, you got the white TV. Well, there's different. There's like the redneck Fox News TV. Like it's all separated, right? So I go down into the black TV room, and you know a big white guy walks in there, and it's like everyone's like. So I see he's playing cards. Now, I personally didn't think that I was being that loud or anything. Not how I normally would have been in the past. But I walked over to him and I was like, yo, man, what the fuck? You're playing cards? And I just put my hands out, whatever. And the way I walked over to him, he just instantly snapped, right?
Wow. And
so this was a dude that had been down already and, came from Arkansas. He'd actually been shot like 7 times. He was getting wound treatment there at the camp. He had a bullet lodged in his leg. He literally was a pimp in real life on the outside. So come from a much different world, right? So he thinks this big white guy is running up on him in front of his boys. So he just jumps up and just blasts me in the chest. And I just did not see it coming at all. I did not expect it to go like that. And I swear, man, it was like in the movie Friday when Debo knocks the guy out and flies like this. My one slide flew one way. My one slide flew the other way. I landed flat on my back on the floor. And in the time that I was flying through the air, I'm like, damn, I'm going to get thrown out of the camp now. And Marissa's definitely she's going to be done, right? That's the main thing that I was thinking in my head because the first day you get there, they stress the no violence policy.
Right.
And if you touch anyone, you're both out. That's the way it is. And then they send you to the county jail in Alabama. You get time added to your sentence.
That's the part that's the worst.
So
time added to your sentence.
So I'm like, man, I can't believe that this just happened. I don't even get up. I lay there. I go, hey man, I'm not fighting you, man. I'll stay here if I gotta. And he was like, get up, put your fucking boots on. We're going outside. And I'm like, look, man. I start looking for my slides. I pick one slide up. Pick the other one up. He's got a bunch of guys around him holding him, and he's freaking out. And I go, look, man, I know you have a daughter. I've seen the picture of her. on your desk. I'm like, I got a girl waiting for me at home. We both got to finish this program and get out of here. It isn't worth it. So I walked back up to my cube, and the whole time he just walked behind me, like running his mouth. In the end, it made actually a lot of the guys respect me a lot. They were like, man, I can't believe the way that you stayed so calm through that whole time. You didn't turn around and just haul off and knock him out. And I'm like, what would that do for me, though? I'm already in trouble at this point. If I knock him out, I'm definitely going to county jail. In my head, all I'm thinking about now is how do I get out of this? Mm-hmm. So they stood us up in front of the community. And the guys in the program, they were like, listen, man, tell the 100% truth. That's what this program is all about. They're going to know if you're lying. They want to make you honest. That's what this program is about. And so the doctor that was the head of the program had already heard about it. Fortunately, the guys that were witnesses, because there was a lot of like rats in the program, went straight to the back. This guy assaulted PJ, So she asked him to stand up. He told this completely BS version of the story. And she was like, that's not what I heard. Mr. Braun, I want to hear what happened. So I straight up told the truth. Now, I knew that I was totally implicating myself by saying I paid him for haircuts. You're not supposed to do anything like that, even though everybody does it. Mm-hmm. They call it negative contracts because they believe that it causes fights and like rape and all kinds of shit, which I'm sure it does in the higher ups. You know what I mean? Like a guy leaves that. They make you watch these videos when you get to prison. I hate to get off that topic, but this is a funny story. The first day that you're in prison, they show you this video, right? So you're sitting in this room, right, and the orientation, and it's a close up of this guy's face, and he's like, "Hello, my name is Russell Johnson, and when I got to prison, I was gang raped." And you're like, "Whoa!" I'm like, I start laughing, and everyone's looking at me like I'm a dick, and I'm like, "Does stuff like this happen here?" And the guy who's showing the video is like laughing. And I'm like, I get back up to you and I'm like, did they make you watch the rape video here? But in the rape video, they give examples of guys like going into their like bunks and there's like candy bars and stuff on their bed. And it's like guys like leaving them treats like, listen, man, I left you that. You're going to do me a favor now. Mm-hmm. And that's how it all like starts out. So they call it negative contracts. In the video, the guy like runs out with the candy bar and he's like, I am not interested with the candy bar and throws it on the ground. So I'm laughing because actually a lot of guys had left food in my room and I just thought they were being.
Shit.
So anyway, I get up and I tell the story and I told the truth. I'm like, I paid him $25 for a haircut. Everyone's like, oh, but I told the complete honest truth. And the doctor knew that she knew the story already. She wanted to see if I was going to lie or not. And I was brand new in the program. Mm-hmm. So she took us both to the lieutenant's office. Now, I already knew that the lieutenant liked me, right? So she was like, sit here. I'm going to vouch for you two. Don't make me look bad. Make sure you're honest when you go in there. Mm-hmm. So she goes, who's going to go in there first? I go, I will, because I knew that they knew me already. So I walk in and they're sitting there. And I'm standing in there and they're like, so you went in the TV room and there was a lot of commotion going on and you slipped because the floor was wet and you fell down and everybody got startled because you're a big guy. And when a big guy falls, a lot happens. You catch what I'm putting down? I said, yes, sir. And he goes, yeah, nobody touched each other. And I said, no, sir. And he goes, will he say that too? I said, yes, sir. And he goes, all right, send him in. So I walked out and I go, look, man, I told him I slipped and I fell. Just stick to the story. So he came out a few minutes later and he's like, man, they told us to just go back. So we went back in and the head of the program who hated me was like, why are you back? Why are you back? I'm like, Lieutenant sent us back. And she was like, you should be in county right now. You should be in county. This is sending a bad message. We don't tolerate violence here. And then she gave me hell for 9 months. But after that, anytime there was any kind of situation with anybody, I just instantly just went the other way. I was like, I'm not getting involved in any. The last week or so, I got kind of like short with a few people because I was already like checked out at that point. But up until that point, man, I stayed out of the TV rooms. I never went in the TV rooms because there was always fights going on in the TV rooms. I stayed in my cube. I didn't play basketball with anybody. I didn't even play chess because there was a fight at a chess game one time. The guy bashed the little chessboard over another guy's head because he was talking trash to him while they were playing. So I stayed to myself.
That's funny. I was in the county jail, so it was a lot different. Whoever asked me that, no, we didn't. I didn't get no gifts. Trust me. County jail's different. We didn't have rooms. Right, you come out from your cell. I was by myself, isolated, and come out in one big thing. But you know what the funniest thing was? They would watch Cops, like Bad Boys, and all the fucking biggest criminal, all those fucking guys were rooting for the cops. Get that motherfucking guy in the tree. And I'm like, oh, look at you fucking guy. In there, I'm thinking like I want to jump off the top balcony and kill myself. You know what I'm saying? Because, it's like, how the fuck did I get here? But I was like laughing my brains out because these guys would all be rooting for cops watching that show.
In my camp, they watched all of the prison shows. And I'm like, this is so weird. Like the show, there's a show called 60 Days In. They religiously watch that show whenever. There's another one called Love After Lockup, which I finally watched one episode of this show. You can't even believe it's real, these shows. They're the craziest shows, but this is all they wanted to watch.
That's crazy.
Same thing where I was. They were always watching like that show, Cops. They might have been watching. I wouldn't watch with them. I'd go be sitting off talking to some of the guys that I talked about. Other than that, it was it was like psycho there. And I had a few correction officers that were bodybuilders that were on my side, and then they had the few others like, look at you fucking juice head. You know what I mean? The correction officers I'm talking about. And the girl correction officers. There was one cute one that would be kind of flirtation, and the rest of them hated my guts. They all hated you.
For no reason.
You know what? You say, excuse me, CO, what time is it? And they say, what do you care? You ain't going nowhere. You know what I mean? 'Cause we didn't have a clock. I don't know about because you're in a different thing. I wasn't federal. I was state. But I'm saying there was no clocks, no nothing. You didn't know what the fuck it was. If you asked them what time it was, they'd be like, what do you care? You ain't going nowhere.
Yeah. In the detention center in Miami, I was in. I know Singerman had to go through this too because during the COVID lockdown, right? It slowed everything down so much. The prisons are run so poorly. So you're supposed to go in quarantine for like 10 days before they ship you anywhere.
Oh man.
And so I was in quarantine for 38 days. And each day it's a different 1 hour. But they let you out for 1 hour for a 7-minute phone call and a shower, right? You don't even know. Like, the only way you try to figure it out is by when the meals come. Like, okay, it's got to be around 5 o'clock. This is the dinner meal, whatever. Sometimes they'd open us up at 6 o'clock in the morning and be like, phone, shower. You got to run out there, try to get on the phone. So, during that time period, I felt like I lost all touch of reality. Like, you're in this weird bubble all day, and then all you have is whatever you try to find books because you're locked up.
That's what I was just going to ask you, because there was no TV. Like I'm in a room by myself, a 6x9 with a bench press as a bed. Mm-hmm. I had no pillow. I used to take my fucking, make my own pillow. But what did you do? Because for me, I would read, and I would also write, like, to my kids and stuff. Even letters. Some, never even went to them, but I would just write anyway because I felt like it was therapy for me to express, like, my life and shit. So what did you do to keep your sanity or on your downtime when there's no TV and you're just sitting in a room staring at those fucking four walls, which people don't realize out there unless you've been in that position? That's some shit.
So the writing thing is so interesting because I'm like, you know what? I'm going to write my life story while I'm in here.
Right.
But I got in there and it was like I was so depressed that I couldn't even sit and write. And I think that now as I look back at everything, right? So I was literally on, at the very least, testosterone for nearly 20 years, right?
Yeah.
I would come off, back when I was competing, I'd come off for a few months. But once I retired, man, from the age of 31 till I went to prison, I was always on at least 200 milligrams of testosterone a week. I never came off. I didn't want to. And so when you're on for that long, whether it's a little HRT dose or not, to have it pulled right out, because I thought I was going to be able to stay on, I crashed in there, right? So, man, I was just in this like really depressed state. And I guess this was a benefit to it. I was like physically exhausted, right? It was just from the stress of everything. So the only book I had in the beginning was the Bible. And it's funny because you have so much time that I was like, I'm just going to start on page 1. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And you start reading. And so if anybody, because I was locked up with some very like spiritual, very religious, depending on what religion they were. But I mean, I was in there with guys that have read the Bible 7 times, 8 times, right? And it's amazing the knowledge that they have of the Bible. Now, for me, I've never read it once. You know, I was raised Catholic, I was confirmed, but my parents didn't push it, right? So trying to read like the beginning of the Bible when you're in that state, it is a very difficult book to read, right? Like, especially going through like Genesis, and it's like you're going through the stories of like Abraham and the children. I had to take breaks. It's like a hard book to read. So all I did for my quarantine was I would literally read the Bible until I got tired, fall asleep with it in my cell, wake up, open it up, start reading it again, and then until I would pass out again. And I had a really nice young kid in my room. Kid was 18 years old, got caught with a gun, 2 years, right? And I was just asking him like about his life, like how he got in there. And you know, he was so different than me. You know, he was a little Jewish kid. I'm like, how the hell did you get messed up in this? And so I actually had some really, really good conversations with him when I was in there, and he liked to write. And so he would talk to me about what he was writing and this and that. And I almost felt like I was kind of almost like mentoring him in a little way. And then when I got out of when they finally put me into the general population in the detention center, man, I got so blessed because I walk into the room, right? And it's so different in Miami, right? It's literally all Latin. And so, and it's crazy because they're actually segregated. So you got the Puerto Rican guys. Everybody hates the Puerto Rican guys, right? Everyone hates the Puerto Rican guys. You got the Mexican guys who are the most organized, like they're on it. I had actually really like good friends like in the Mexican class. Then you have like the Cuban guys, the Colombian guys. So I walk in and these guys are all coming up to me, speaking to me in Spanish. And I'm like, oh no, I don't speak Spanish, right? I'm like, what am I gonna do? And I'm like, no speak Espanol, no speak Espanol. And this guy starts laughing and he goes, hey, where are you? What cube are you? What room are you in? I'm like, oh, I'm down here. And he's like, oh, you're my cellie. And I'm like, man, thank God you speak English. And he's like, I'm Cuban. And he's like, but he's like, I'm here. I speak English. And I was like, thank God. I didn't know what I was gonna do. And he was like, no, don't worry. I started like talking with him, and it was crazy because he was such a kind guy, right? He was very, very like devout Christian man. And he was doing all his time learning about bodybuilding. And he got so into it, right? And he actually, with the limited amount of crap we in there, he made weights. This guy was so innovative. Out of the laundry bags, he made them, he filled them with water, tied them all up, and made little, basically like kettlebells. He made them all different sizes. And he had all these muscle and fitnesses and magazines that he was reading and teaching himself. So when I walked in there, this is before my body went to shit. He was like, man, you must work out a lot. And so I started talking to him, and he was like, man, I feel like God like answered my prayers when he brought you in here. He's like, do you mind if I ask you questions? Man, I did his whole diet for him with his training, and it was giving me like something to do. So this guy would work out so hard. They would open up the cells, and he'd go outside the cell, and he'd set up his little like shit, and he'd work out so hard. So I'd be watching him, and I'm still pretty depressed at this point. And I was like, hey man, let me show you a better way to do that. Put your back like this, move yourself like this. Oh yeah, I feel it more. Man, after the second day, I was like, shit, man, I'm just going to work out with you. And I'm so glad that I did, because I got so much more like into it after that. So I was with him for like 3 weeks. And then they came down, they're like, Braun, we got to swab your nose. I'm like, finally, because whenever they would swab somebody's nose, it meant they were checking to see if they had COVID because they were shipping them out. So they swab my nose, they leave. We're working out. Guard comes down. He's like, Braun, pack up your shit. And I'm like, oh, I'm getting out of here. And he's like, nah, I got to take you up to the shoe. And I'm like, the shoe? Why? And so for like the listeners that don't know, the shoe is the solitary housing unit, right? So I'm like, why? I don't bother anybody. And he's like, man, I don't know. They just told me to tell you to pack up your shit. And then he looks at my cellie, Francisco, God bless him. And they're like, hey, man, you got to pack up your shit too. He's like, what did I do? And they're like, he's like, well, you're with him. And I'm like, dude, I think I must have failed the COVID.
Oh, that's it.
So they're going to make me and you go and sit up there now. And sure enough, man, they made us sit up there for 10 days up there in the shoe, which honestly, man, like I went through it so bad in the quarantine that the shoe wasn't that much worse. It was just very hot. And they just left. If I really was sick with COVID, they just leave you to die. You know what I mean? I didn't even have any symptoms, you know? So he was so pissed too. He's banging on the door. Nobody even tested me to see if I have COVID. They're like, hey, man, you're with him. I was like, bro, I'm so sorry.
Wow.
So after that, when I finally got out of there, I gave him a hug. And I'm like, listen, when you get out, because he had a longer sentence than me, I was like, when you get out, make sure you write me. I'll get you right with all the right supplements and everything else. And that guy worked out for hours every day. Man, I was really, really impressed with him. So I don't even know how I got into that story, but you know, there's so many prison stories that pop up in my head from time to time.
Yeah, they didn't want to give you testosterone, or you couldn't get your lawyer to give you that?
Hell no. My lawyers wrote. The doctor said he needs testosterone for these reasons. Yeah. Also, at that time I was going through, I had a really bad year before that where I was very sick.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And I had it took forever them to figure out that I have this autoimmune disease called chronic active Epstein-Barr. So basically Epstein-Barr virus is what causes like mono, right? Mm-hmm. I got mono like 5 times in the same year. That's like impossible. How does that happen? You know what I mean? So they couldn't figure it out. I was getting really skinny and weak. Mm-hmm. And so once I finally like got healthy again, they were like, look, this is part of his protocol. He needs to be on the testosterone. You know, he's been on for 20 years. His body going to fall apart without it. They don't care.
They don't give 2 shits.
2 shits.
I was in prison with a guy that was 80 years old. I'm not exaggerating for the sake of the story. He was on testosterone for over 40 years.
Wow.
Over 40 years, this guy, Andrew, and he was an attorney. He got into some shit on Wall Street, actually, and they threw this poor 80-year-old guy in jail. They gave him a 7-year sentence, and his doctor came to speak to the warden. He's like, you don't understand. This man at his age, pulling him off the steroids, you're going to kill him. And they did not care. So this poor guy, he had all these pictures of himself with Frank Zane. He used to work out with Frank Zane. Wow. Amazing shape for 80 years old. He got so skinny, his voice, he started to lose his voice. He sounded like RFK, like how much his voice changed. His hands started shaking. And I was like, man, this poor guy's going to die in here. Fortunately, after a year and a half, he qualified for the CARES Act, and they sent him home. Thank God. And the crazy thing is, I saw him at the halfway house when I got out, and he was all covered up. And I gave him a hug, and I was like, oh, man, he's filled himself out. And I was like, man, it's so good to see you, man. How are you? I'm like, man, you got back on testosterone, huh? I could tell. And he was like, oh, I don't talk about anything like that. I'm like, okay, no problem, no problem. But I was so happy to see that the poor guy didn't die in there like that, you know.
They don't give 2 shits. You could have cancer. They don't care. They're like, oh well, one less. That's the
but if you are trans, they'll pay for you to do that.
Oh yeah, fuck yeah. They treat them. They had a whole separate unit. You know what I mean? They don't care. That's a whole different fucking animal.
We had one in our prison. I don't know what his real name was, but everybody called him Duchess. And he said that they were paying for all his stuff. They're paying for his surgery, everything.
That's crazy.
For surgery, sorry, but like, and also like you got to be real careful. They gave us this whole thing before Duchess got there about the pronouns and everything. And honestly, Duchess was such a big dude that I would not have thought. It wasn't like one of these like pretty little like Spanish ones, right? Some big ass black guy comes walking in. I open the door and I'm like, hey, what's up, man? And he goes,
it's a big dude with a man bun. That's all.
And I'm like, oh, crap. You know, and they were like, hey, man, that was rude. That was Duchess. I'm like, how am I supposed to know? That guy's bigger than me. Short hair, you know what I mean? Like,
that's insane, man.
Yeah, it's
I was going to ask you about Aaron. Aaron Singman? Is that relationship? There's no way to talk or anything.
Man, honestly, it's so different for me now because I went through such a weird thing in prison, and I don't know. Maybe someday me and him will talk and see how he feels too. But if you asked me this question on day one of jail, I would have been like, F Aaron. You know what I mean? There's no way.
Mm-hmm.
But when I went through everything in prison, you go through these phases of, first of all, the hardest thing, it actually wasn't hard for me to forgive Aaron. I went through this phase where I needed to like forgive myself, man. I had a lot of guilt and shame. And then I started thinking to myself about my relationship with Aaron for years. And honestly, man, like we were such good friends. Like me and him, we really were the best of friends. Mm-hmm. And I started thinking to myself, man, I really miss that we were best friends like that. I've had best friends, but I never had a friend where we just really loved to do everything together. And we really like played off each other so well. It was almost like my weaknesses were his strengths. So we were such a good team in all these different things. And we had so much fun doing it. And I'm like, I started thinking, man, I'll probably never have anything like that ever again. And then I started taking it a step further. I wonder what my role really was in that. And I started thinking about when I was going through my divorce. And, you know, leading up to this point, Aaron and we went through this complete like reversal in our relationship, right? So I introduced Aaron to Dave, and he was so different back then. I almost, in a way, felt like I was almost like his big brother a little bit in a way, right? Even though we were the same age. He'd come stay with me in Connecticut, crash on my couch for a week. And I was like, dude, you're so freaking smart. You're like the smartest guy I know. You got to just do something with yourself. Mm-hmm. And I'm like this like workaholic, right? Mm-hmm. And then it was almost like he almost like blew by me in a way. Once he had his son, he became like a completely different man. And he became a hustler. And I was almost like, I realize it now, I think I was almost like jealous because I felt like, wait a minute, why is this all happening for you now?
Yep.
So I really aggressively tried to get married and have a child and start doing all this thing. And I rushed into it with the wrong girl. It happens to a lot of people. And he was telling me the whole time. And I realize now he was trying to help me as a friend, but I was like, F you, don't tell me what to do. You know?
But I don't know whatever happened between you guys. I never knew the story. But sometimes other people play a part in that and like to fucking, go like this and then go back to you and then go like this, because there's a lot of jealous people in this industry, and you're around other people that that start that shit. So,
there was a lot of people that were like, and honestly, I shouldn't have ever listened to anybody else, but there was a guy that came into the mix also. So I was already felt like, dude, you don't know what you're talking about. I remember, I'll never forget, he said to me one day, I know PJ Braun doesn't quit, but sometimes, man, you just got to quit for your own good. Yeah. And it was like, dude, I was chasing this girl around the country. Like, she was having affairs. Nowadays, I'd never allow that. But I don't know what, I was in this crazy, almost like desperate mindset for this girl for some reason. And it's never happened to me any other time. And I look back at it like, man, I was like crazy for a little while. And so during this time, me and him are supposed to be best friends and partners. And he's getting mad at me. I'm not showing up for meetings because I'm drinking and chasing after this girl. So when the other partner got into the mix, I feel like, saw that he knew that he could divide us through me. And he basically was like, listen, man, Aaron is doing things that he shouldn't be doing. I went through the books. He's expensing things on the company.
I knew it.
Not a good friend to you. And you're not even using anything on the books. We got to confront him. And we confronted him. And Aaron was like, I thought you were doing the same stuff as me. And I really, in this mindset, was like, man, he was stealing from me. And he was like, that is not your friend. He was stealing from you. How can you trust him ever again? Mm-hmm. And listen, that is literally what made Blackstone Labs split up. And so we split up, and he wanted to get him completely removed. But even though I was so mad at him, I loved him, and and his wife was like my sister. So I didn't want them to be financially hurt at all. So he actually still had all the shares in Blackstone. He made the same amount of money as me. He just wasn't allowed in the building anymore. Wow. So to him, he was like, I see it now where he's like, screw you. How are you going to do that to me? I'll just go start my own thing. I know the business model that works. And that's how Redcon started. And you know what? He made it, I think, probably the biggest company in business now. Yeah. So when
it's a shame. You guys are both, I like both of you two guys. You're both good guys.
That Olympia picture of both of them.
I just think that once other people get involved, and then your head gets in the wrong place. And that's what sometimes jail is like, taking a step forward. Like, when you're stuck in the mud, you got to back your car up to go forward. Sometimes it reboots your whole brain. And like I said, for me, the little things became the better thing. Real fast, what food was the first food you ate? Like, what were you like when you finally got out of it? What food was it that you like, I gotta have this?
You're never gonna believe it, because it's not even something that I would normally eat.
McDonald's.
So the first thing that I ate, the first day I ate a lot of weird shit. So I kept on seeing these commercials in prison for Wendy's had this pumpkin frosty. And I really like pumpkin stuff. Like I'm like a girl. I like pumpkin spice and shit. So I was like, damn, that looks so good. So when we were driving home, I was like, please stop at Wendy's. I want to get a pumpkin frosty. And it's the only one I've ever eaten, and it was delicious. And then right after that, I was like, actually, let's get some fried chicken. And I ate fried chicken. I don't know. I was in Alabama for a while. So, but I honestly, I couldn't wait just to eat bodybuilding food again.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. I mean, the food was so bad in there that like everyone was like, how did you get so fat? And I was like, listen,
it's all starch. That's why.
I'm like, all you guys thought that I was going to come home some twig. I've never been a twig. When I was in 5th grade, I was 150 pounds, like I'm just not a little guy. So when you go in there and all they're giving me is bread and rice and bullshit, you're going to eat because you're so bored.
Mm-hmm. We had fake meat. You didn't even have real meat. You had fake fucking meat. And the funny thing is, where I was, they would give it a drink. You had like sugar-free Kool-Aid because they were afraid. Meanwhile, they're giving you all the starch and shit. But they were afraid the sugar was going to give you energy and like get you all fucking jacked up like nuts. It was so weird. But
Brian, I'm reading that comment. Brian, he said, Greg said, when you've been in jail, when you get out, everything in life gets easy. I've been out a year now, and I really that has not left me at all. Like I rarely get upset over anything.
It's the little thing you got. I mean, just the fact his wife, I think, that's a reason to live right there. Just that alone, you know what I mean? As somebody really cares about you, doesn't give a fuck about what anybody else says. Maybe people think you're the bad guy. Other friends are stabbing you in the back, talking shit, whatever. But his girl's there for him, and that's why I'd love to see him get a family. I hope that you get pregnant and have babies, because that's
they have a baby.
Yeah, we're having she's having the baby on St. Patrick's Day.
Oh shit. Okay, yeah. I'm behind the times. I'm so sorry. Good. Yeah. Well, I'm glad. I'm happy for you. You know what I mean? That's awesome. That's when your life, when you have a kid, man, that's when the life really takes all, like your whole thinking is just like it's all about the kid, Fuck the Sandow trophies and all that bodybuilding stuff. That because in the end, look at a lot of these guys, when the fans stop rooting for you and your career's over in bodybuilding or even any sport, it's the people who love you who are still standing there, like, and those are the people, like some of these guys that can't let go of the sport or whatever, go beyond. But, I'm just so happy that you're out and that you're happy and now your life is taken over. And That's better than anything, you know. And in time, just give everything time. Just don't get too over anxious and like overeat in one spot. You know, let it rest. You know what I mean? And you will get this shit will pass. You'll be off probation. Your shit will drop off, and you can get your business going. But right now, you're focused on your wife and that little baby coming.
Yeah, I have to. That's the best advice, because if I don't stay in that mindset, I'll get depressed, because I keep telling myself, you know what? This is a good opportunity for me to be the best dad and husband, because at least I'm allowed to do that. So I better damn well be the best in those categories, you know?
That's a good thinking. Use this time right here, right now, just to get your life. Otherwise, if you started focusing on business, you might not get the life where it needs to be right away. You know, you start thinking, oh, I got to make up for lost time. I got to start making money again. Forget that. It's coming. It's down the road. You already won the lottery. They're just printing up the check. It's down the road, though. You'll get it. It's yours. But right now, you're here. You know what I mean? And just focus on, oh, I'm having a baby, and you know, you got a great wife, man. You know what I'm saying? And I'm just saying that right now, just focus on that shit. The rest is gonna come. It's all there for you.
Yeah. What are you doing now, PJ, as far as working and everything? What are you doing? I know it's kind of been tough.
Yeah, no, I have a very great situation going for me. So my boss, basically, he works out with me every day. So I'm listed as basically like his assistant, a general laborer. But I have a lot of freedom, right? So the company is called Excel Racing.
Okay.
And if you remember years ago, some of the people that are listening will remember, I did this project where we took, I have a Ferrari F12 that we modified with a twin turbo. Nobody had ever done it before. So
yeah, I remember.
Go on YouTube and type in world's first twin turbo Ferrari. You'll see the video with me and him. He is like, you know, a genius with this stuff. And so when I got out of prison, I was like, listen, these people won't let me work anywhere of the stuff that I know how to do. I said, will you please hire me? Like, I'll sweep the floors if you want. And he was like, yeah, absolutely. So, I told him, I go, look, just pay me minimum wage, man. I'll find a way to make it work out. He's like, listen, man, I got you. You know, we've done a lot together over the years. So, you know, in the beginning, I was just going in there, sitting in the shop. I wanted to run errands for him, you know, like pick up customers, this and that. They wouldn't even let me do that. They're like, we don't want you driving people around. So for a while, I just kind of sat in there and did whatever. And now we worked it out where he's gotten most people that hang out with me long enough start getting really into working out, because that's all that's on my mind most of the time. And it becomes, you know, it's like they say, birds of a feather flock together. So I train him every morning at 7 o'clock. I train him hard. He trains with me. I help him with his meals and whatnot. And then anything he needs help with, I'm there. You know what I mean? And that's, for now, that's my job. It satisfies the government's happy. They actually told me they'd rather I stay there. I've tried to do these other things, and they're like, why don't you just stay where you're at? I'm like, fine. You know, so.
Wow. Well, it's about an
For
hour.
now, it's good. Yeah. I mean, you know.
But PJ, I mean, you got our support and love. You're going to do well.
Absolutely.
You know, we appreciate you coming on. And again, I hope you come on again. You know, you got a friend with us. We love you and support you. And Marissa, good luck with the baby, you know.
Absolutely.
Hey, let me ask you this before you guys kick me out of here. I got to know. Switch topics for a minute.
Sure.
So I was so excited to watch this Mike Tyson fight, right?
Okay.
I'm just so curious. I like to hear other people like somebody that's got more boxing knowledge than me.
So I could tell you, my brother.
I understand I'm trying to, as I get older, I'm trying to defy age, right?
Right.
You got one half of the people that are like, he's old. What did you expect that was going to happen? But I'm watching the first round and I'm like, wow, man, he looks explosive. He looks great. And then it was just like, boom, 0 after.
Yes.
So do you believe that it was rigged, or did he just gas out like they're saying because he's old?
No, it was not rigged. And we know people close to Tyson personally.
Yeah.
We know Teddy Atlas. We know everyone close to the situation. Tyson is not the same person. He's not. He's an old man, you know, and he's fighting someone young. And Jake Paul has skills. Now he's not a top contender, but he has skills to beat an old man. Yeah. And Tyson was gassed, completely gassed.
PJ, it's just like bodybuilding.
Yes.
We've had great bodybuilders who have placed as high as second in the Mr. Olympia.
Yep.
And they don't compete for 5-10 years, and all of a sudden they try to come back and you can't even crack the top 10. Yeah. You got to know when Father Time says it's a wrap, it's a wrap. You know what I'm saying? There's light at the end of the tunnel for a lot of other things in their lives, especially Tyson. Tyson once said, I can sit in Madison Square Garden and masturbate and still sell out. You know what I'm saying? Then do it. Just don't fuck around with stupid shit like these fights. Now, you're going to see a million things all over the internet about how, like, oh, no, he pulled his punch here. You can see it. Oh, he could have hit him, and then Jake Paul was telling him, what are you doing? Stop her. All that shit's bullshit. He just was gassed. He doesn't have it.
No, he was not. Some of those videos were edited.
In 20 years. He's 20 years. He's what is he, 58? He's 58 years old.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, man, I'm 64 years old. I'm lucky. You know, I can throw my back out trying to shake somebody's hand. You know what I mean? It's just...
We told everyone. They were like, what's going to happen? I said, Tyson, his only shot to win is in that first round. Go gas to the wall and just do that's his only shot.
PJ, it's just like I would say, because people still talk about it. Imagine if Kai Green came back. I'm like, stay in your lane, stay in your era, be that guy that like, oh man, he could have won the Mr. Olympia. That if he goes in now, he wouldn't even, I don't think he'd even crack the top 15. I'm just saying, because he's not going to be the same guy. You can't take 15, 20 years off and then come back and think that you're just going to pick up. And now Tyson's 58 years old. Yeah, he hits the bag, but you're seeing 10-second clips of hitting the bag. You know what I mean?
We told everybody else was going to happen. People didn't believe it.
I think Mike Tyson should remain the Mike Tyson that we all love and just, the way we remember him. But, if you keep doing these kind of things, you taint your legacy, Yeah.
The best fight was that girl fight.
It was really hard for me to watch that.
Yeah, the girl fight was the best fight.
It was too.
It was amazing. Honestly, that fight, male or female, was one of the best fights I've ever seen.
Yeah, that was a great fight.
I don't know. I don't know. The decision was a tough one. I don't know if
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, she got a tough
decision. But the thing is, when Tyson came out there and we saw him bobbing and weaving, he was throwing punches and missing. I think he was just overamped at the beginning. I think he was just overamped. A lot of people are like, no, he missed because he was purposely missing. I don't believe that. I just think that he was overamped. And I just don't. I mean, he just. We all want that. I mean, I was praying.
We all want
let him knock him out. Let him knock him out, please. Let him hit. I do believe that if he connected a really good shot, he could still knock you out and put you. But it's hard. That guy's moving around. He's got them long arms. He's a lot taller than Tyson. He's younger. He can, So it's just a different animal.
Yeah, I mean, Teddy Atlas told us Tyson was biting his. If you notice, he was biting his glove.
Yep.
That's a sort of like someone sucking their thumb. It's when he gets a little bit nervous and he gets a little bit shaken up. It's just what he does, and it's sort of just a little mechanism he does.
And listen, Joe was just with Teddy Atlas personally. I'm not talking about It's not like Joe saw it on the internet. Teddy Atlas saying it. Joe was just with Teddy Atlas, and Teddy Atlas from Joe's ears to Teddy Atlas's lips. Teddy Atlas was telling him, no, he knew. Teddy even said before the fight, I'm afraid for Mike. It's just, you can't. You're 58 years old. You can't just get in there. I mean, we see these bodybuilders who try this shit, and even Arnold, when he was still only like 30, 31, 32, when he came back in 1980, he hadn't competed in 5 years, and everybody said he's not the same Arnold. He shouldn't have won that show. He wasn't in Arnold condition. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. But they gave it to him because bodybuilding, how that shit is. It's it's a matter of opinion. Of
course.
Yep. You don't win by merit. You win by a bunch of judges who decide Arnold's got it. You know what I mean? Like that kind of shit.
PJ, you ever come up this way to New York, Jersey area?
I haven't been up there in a few years. I went up there. Listen to this. So my whole entire time that I was out on pretrial, I did not get in trouble once. Right? I was like a model person. And right before it's time for me to get sentenced, every year in New York, Steve Calabrese, he has the natural body stores. He does this thing called the Epic Block Party, right? Mm-hmm. And they couldn't get anybody for Blackstone to be up there. And he was like, man, PJ, can we get you up here? And I was like, you know what? I was like, let me see if I can get a flight up in the morning where I can get back the same day, because I've got to be in court the following week. And I pulled it off. So I shot out there early, flew up, I got back. Monday morning, my probation officer is like, hey, I need you to come in for a drug test. I'm like, yeah, no problem. So I go in there and I take the drug test. She's like, come in here and sit down. She's like, so you decided to go to New York this weekend without getting permission. And I was like, oh my God.
Wow.
It happened so fast. And you've approved everything that I've ever asked for. It just truly slipped my mind. And she goes, yeah, it makes me look really bad when the prosecutor's like, why is PJ Braun in New York this weekend? Why am I seeing PJ Braun all over? And I'm like, man, he's watching me like that. And crazy. She's like, I have to put this in to the judge, but I'm going to write that I recommend them ignore it because you've been good for 3 years. Mm-hmm. And I was like, thank God. That was the last time I was in New York, was for the Epic Block Party. Okay. That was 21. Yeah, 2021. Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy. Well, wait, let us know. We'd love to take you out. Oh,
I definitely will. I used to love to go to. I used to drive from Connecticut to Strong and Shapely all the time, man.
Yeah, Strong and Shapely.
Love going there. Rest in peace, Bob, man.
Yeah. I used to work out there.
The new owner actually wrote me. He was like, hey, if you ever come out to play, come train. So I used to love going there, man.
Yeah, I go there.
Yeah, me too. I haven't been in there since he was, alive. So,
Yeah, the owner tries to get Gregg to go there. Calls me to see if I can get Gregg to go there because they want to do the anniversary.
The one time that I went to Yorktown Heights, you weren't there, Gregg.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they said you go real late at night, I guess.
Oh, that's right. You mean my gym, Powerhouse? Yeah. Fuck.
Back in the day, I'd heard all the stories from Mike Gentile, so I had to go.
Yeah. I just saw Mike.
Mike. How's he doing?
He's doing good. Mike, he's all over the place. He was down in North Carolina, but he wants to move to Tennessee. He's good. We're all getting older. I think he's 59.
Wow.
Something like that. I'm 64, so I'm fucking
old. Good, man. You don't look 64.
No, thank you. I remember you, when you were young. I remember we had that dinner. We all ate after one of Mike Gentile shows. We all went out to eat and stuff.
Yeah,
that was
a fun time, man. I was picking your brain like crazy. It was great.
How fast it doesn't seem like it was that long ago, but that's like 20 or plus years ago or whatever that was. That was a long time ago.
Oh yeah, it was like 25 years ago.
It was about 25 years ago, that show.
1999 or 2000.
It was around either 1999 or 2000 when we were in that dinner together with Mike and all that stuff. Yeah. Mike looks exactly the same,
Really?
Yeah, he's such a good guy. He's a good guy. I'm going to tell him I talked to you. That's how.
Yeah, tell him I said hi.
Yeah, I will.
The guy that we were both there to support, he was like one of my first mentors. This kid Rene Abreu. I don't know if you remembered him, but he was the one that won the show that Mike did, and he had the most unique genetics because he was half Chinese. And
I know Rene.
Half Dominican.
I know Rene. He's a good guy. Fucking that kid. He looks like The Rock, and he
looks like The Rock, right? And it was crazy because he had the sickest physique because he had like the Bruce Lee shreds, but he had the round like Dominican, round muscle belly.
Yes,
he was the most unique looking guy. He was my first like hero when I was a kid because he was a senior when I was a freshman in school.
Wow.
Oh, shit. I know Rene. Rene used to train at my gym all the time because he used to come there with Gentile.
Yeah.
Gentile still sees him because he was just talking to me about Rene.
I gotta see if I can hook back up.
We call him The Rock because he did that. Remember, he's studio eyebrow. He kind of looks like The Rock.
Yeah, he looks just like him.
He's like a Samoan or something. You know what I mean? You know how the Samoans are always like they're big. Yeah. He had that big skeleton. He was a big guy, Rene. He was a good guy.
Yeah, he was a great guy. Very smart. Very, very smart guy too.
Yeah, if you're ever up this way, let me know. I can get Mike to get a hold of him. Mike not be here. If Mike's around, I would tell you. But he just went back like a week ago. Okay. But Rene, they're still good, real close. Rene.
Yeah. Please tell Mike I said hello.
I certainly will. That's funny.
Well, PJ, thank you so much for your time. We love you,
Yeah,
brother.
man.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you
If
so
you
much
need
for
any
having me on
support,
here.
just let us know. We're
PJ.
here to support you, brother.
Okay, thank you guys so much.
Yeah, PJ. God bless, man.
God bless you too. God bless you both, man.
Give your wife my best.
I want to go give her a kiss right now.
Yeah, please, man. God bless.
All right,
You're a
guys.
good man. You
Greg,
got my love and respect always.
Thank you.
I'll talk to you later, Greg. Love you, brother.
Take
All
care,
right,
guys.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for watching the Zapata Brand podcast. Please subscribe to the podcast and listen where all podcasts are available.